Welcome back to Module 3. This is one of the most difficult parts of the Family Bootcamp because it talks about the death of the family in the form of estrangement. Estrangement is the other death. While people still traditionally lose family members through natural death, society has begun to experience the other death of the family, which is estrangement. Estrangement is a threat to all families. No one is, no one is exempt. As counselors, we're seeing more and more cases of estrangement. Social media is commonizing it, and it becomes something that people are just getting used to, cutting people off, and even cutting mothers off, cutting children off, cutting siblings off, just cutting family members off. The truth is that conflict is difficult to deal with, and it's also inevitable. And that seems to be what leads to a lot of estrangement. People are just deciding that to fight for the family, to learn how to communicate, it's just not worth it. And they get to the point where they feel like, I'll just be happier outside of the family unit. It's unrealistic, though, to think that you're going to live a conflict-free life. And whether you're having conflict with your family or other people, conflict is inevitable. Offense is inevitable. Jesus himself said, when offense comes, not if offense comes, not if you're hurt, but when you're hurt. He knew that the time would come that because we're falling people and no one's in the perfect state, that we would become the victims of one another's lack of development or development. And so with that in mind, we have to understand that there's always going to be an issue when people are trying to relate. There's always going to be an opponent to unity. We're always going to have to fight to have peace. To fight for peace is something that is quite natural in our natural world, spiritual world, and in our families and in relationships. The challenge is we live in a culture that cancels. This is a cancel culture. You know, we say cancel. We don't think about boundaries or trimming or making relationships better. We're just like, cancel. We'll just make a family out of friends. We'll figure something out. But we want the control of pulling the plug. So we live in a cancel culture. If we don't feel like we're happy, we don't feel like people are too much to deal with, then we cancel them and we cut them out of our lives. There is a professional way and a biblical way to move and to mature into boundaries, into relating, so that estrangement is not your only option. But you have to be willing and you have to be able to be in a position to make good decisions, to move forward, and to navigate through conflict and crises. We have tools for you, and I'm so excited about this because I didn't have tools. Like I said, I come from a big family. I may have mentioned it. My husband and I have been married 30 years, 6 children, 12 grandchildren, and we didn't have the tools that I have today. I wish I had. So we were experimenting, and in the process of that, we have become estranged from, and there's nothing that you can do about it once it gets to the relationship gets to the point of estrangement, and we'll talk about that as well. But it's important to God that we try and that we utilize the skills that he's given us, so it should be important to us. The law of entanglement states in physics that even if two particles are separated, they're still connected. So you're still interconnected to people even after you cut them off. It just works like that. They're still in your mind, and they're still on a vibration and energy level where we are one blood. And so we're connected by, even if it's negative memories, we're connected. So it behooves us to learn how to create closure if there is a need for closure, and to learn how to manage closure, because we cannot control other people's choices. People are choosing to pack it up and to leave. And there's nothing you can do about it outside of pray, and work out the issues yourself and control what you can control. The law of entanglement depicts and states that we are supposed to be together, and on some level, even in death, we will still be connected to one another and impacted by one another. So there's no running, there's no hiding. You can give the silent treatment and you can cut off, but you are still going to be connected with the stress or with the negative memory or just with the loss of not having the part of you that God created for you to have, because we are a body that's fitly joined together. Estrangement is so common in our society, and this may be underreporting, but it states that one out of 4 adults are estranged, meaning that they are separated from the family and they're choosing to withdraw. They're basically handing in resignations. Some people are just yelling, "I quit, you're dead to me." And they have decided that I'm better off without this relationship, and I don't see the value in the relationship, and I don't even have hope for the relationship. So if there's no hope, then there can be no light. And then if there's no light, then there is no expectation of things getting better. You don't know how things are going to get better. So you just say, you know what? I can't take the pain anymore. I can't take the heartache anymore. I can't take the inconvenience anymore. Or sometimes people estrange from families, not because they're emotionally exasperated, because maybe, excuse me, it's maybe because they don't want to, they feel like they're better than their family members, kind of like the imitation of life. So they decide to go and live a life outside of their family and estrange from them. Their family's not good enough. Or sometimes people are just angry and they just do it. I'll make you suffer. And it's not that I'm totally inconvenienced. It's just, I want to make you suffer. It's malicious. In the defense of those who have weakened systems, autonomic nervous systems that are impaired, sometimes the conflict becomes too much and they feel like they're drowning. They're emotionally flooded and they don't have the skills they need to be safe, and they choose their health. It's like, save yourself and maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't. So there's just not one type of estrangement. And so we get to look at that today, and we get to get some understanding of it, and we get to look at creating some boundaries that would make someone feel safe enough to re-engage and know that they won't be in danger and there's safety and there's hope. Boundaries create hope. And if you want anything enough, that will be the motivation for you to continue to work on improving your family relationship and working towards unity in the family. You're going to work anyways. You're going to work to live with yourself. You're going to work to live at work. You're going to compromise for someone. So these skills that we're teaching you today, the boundaries and trying to prevent estrangement and dealing with estrangement, they're just life applicable skills. They're principles that you need to make it. So let's talk about it. What causes estrangement in families? Well, I gave you a little preview, but more specifically, conflict and crises. And the type of crises and conflict include abuse, sexual, physical, emotional, verbal, financial abuse. And sometimes the abuse could have occurred when you were young, and now that you're older, you're still dealing with the ramifications of the abuse, and you're triggered by being around family members. So you decide that I want to remove myself because of something that happened in the past. I can't get over how my parents abused me. I can't get over how a family member abused me. And when I see that person, I'm triggered. So instead of physically seeing them, I'm just going to make them disappear physically by my absence. Estrangement happens in family because after an offense, there's unforgiveness. There's just an unwillingness to let it go and to offer another chance. and to go through the process of reconciliation, because forgiveness and reconciliation are two separate things. But in unforgiveness, it's just a decision not to let it go, but to hold the person responsible and to withhold love and to withhold relationship from that person. So that causes estrangement. I mentioned it, the pride of status. You may feel like you're too good for your family. You may feel like their morals are too beneath you, and so you don't want to be around them and their lifestyle. If there's drinking, smoking, or the environment's toxic, you may feel like, I don't want to be around that, so I'm withdrawing. I don't like the way they live, and I just choose better. So two parts of that is, one, I choose better. Another one part of that is arrogance. Sometimes you feel like they're not good enough, so you estrange yourself. You only want to be around people who share your mindset and your status. And then sometimes what causes estrangement is toxic independence, where you feel like you're on this isolated corner that we've been talking about, and you don't need anyone. You have a disengaged attachment style, and you're afraid to get close to people because people always let you down. People are just full of trouble. And so now I've conditioned myself not to need anyone, because to need anyone reminds me of the vulnerability of being a child. It reminds me of the abuse I suffered as a child. It reminded me of the disappointment I received by depending on other people. So now I have this toxic independence, me against the world, me, myself, and I versus everyone. So I withdraw from the family and I venture out to make it on my own, because family reminds me of the pain I experienced, reminds me of my vulnerabilities, and I can't afford to be vulnerable. I have to be strong because I have to protect myself, and I have to feel like that I'm in control of my life and I can handle anything by myself, so I never have to connect. And then society plays a big role on estrangement, because they preach the message of toxicity in relationships, and you should just cut people off. And, even if it's your parents, you need to be happy. And they have communities on social media of support of people who have cut their parents off. And you have to be careful of that. And I'm going to go into it, because sometimes you do have to set up protective boundaries, but sometimes the spirit is so angry and they never even tried to really resolve the issues. They just moved right into, I have new friends, I have a new spouse, and my emotional and financial needs are being met elsewhere. So I don't need my family. So society is creating and devaluing the family because God values it. So society is saying, that's not such a good idea. Forget who God placed in your family. You go out and you pick your friends. And we say with great confidence that, God chooses our family, but we choose our friends. And most people would like to be in control of their relationships. So they kind of dismiss who God gave them. And they would like to be a part of creation and creating their own family and experimenting. And so sometimes society plays the role in that way and gives support that it's okay to cut your parents off. It's okay to cut your siblings off. You just worry about you.